Hi and welcome. I will show you how you can create details like this by using a normal map with a bump node. You can paint all these details and the textures for the platforms and for this shape that I've done as well with some edge wear. We can see another example over here of this platform that you can create textures with it. And if you look at the cubes, I've also used this technique here to create some rivets, some edge wear and roughness to the surface. We can go over to viewport shading, solid mode here. You can see that the geometry of this object is not that complicated. It's fairly basic and simple, but together with textures and with the bump node or the painted bumps, it can be more detailed. So we go over to the default cube and I will show you. I will now switch to the shading and let's create a material for this. Let's call it test. And for this we need to UV unwrap it. But first we will create a texture. So image texture, let's set it new. Let's call it bump 2K 2048 by 2048. Here is the important part. The normal map needs to be of high quality and a high bitrate. Otherwise it will look jagged and pixelated. So I usually go in here to color. I set it to RGB, create the RGB values to 0.5. So you get right in the middle of it. And I also enable 32-bit float. Now we can create or press OK here and go directly here to texture interpolation, set it to cubic, and color space, it's non-color. Now we need a bump node, so Shift A, search for a bump. The color goes into the height and the normal goes into the normal. Let's also create a diffuse texture for the base color and plug the color directly into the color. We created our texture and if we go to here, we can see that a default cube is UV unwrapped pretty good already, so we don't have to do that. But if it's a more complicated object with lots of geometries, you need to UV unwrap it. So with the cube selected and bump texture collected, we can jump into texture paint. I highly recommend that you use a drawing tablet for this. I'm using a Wacom drawing tablet. And now we can see how we can create different textures and bumps on this cube. So here we are with our cube. We are in texture paint mode, and I have my brush selected with the radius of 10 and strength of 0.4, and we can simply just paint here, and we will create these patterns. In combination with the mirror option up here, we can enable the X and create some patterns. If you would like to create some panels or panel gaps and such, you can. My recommendation is that you go up to stroke, press and select line, and just click and drag. And by holding the option button, you will get straight lines. The option on the keyboard, and then just release, and you have a line. You can create a panel here. So, for example, if you want some rivets for this now, we can go into stroke and select spacing between the dots. So let's try 300 and do it like this. It was a bit too much. I will not use the mirror option. Like that. And now we have some rivets with a panel or something. You can see here what has happened in our normal map and how it looks. We can also use textures to create some roughness of the surface. So I will use these dots, turn off stabilize stroke. I will go into texture, create a new texture, and we can just use a cloud texture here. Reduce the contrast a bit, up the size, increase the radius of the pen or the pencil, and we can create some roughness here. By selecting different colors, you can see that the effect goes deeper or higher, like so. And in combination with the strength, you can get a more subtle effect with the bumps. And we can also paint over the already created patterns that we've done up here, like so. We go into rendered preview for a bit clearer view. Now you can see it more clear. So that's how we do it, to create some bumps, textures, patterns and other details for your models and texturing, by using a normal map and a bump node, and perhaps also a drawing tablet. Thank you so much for watching.